Royal Daily Report Candace Owens has just come forward with a big claim. She says Meghan's pregnancy story doesn't make sense, and the truth has been right in front of us all along. But here's the part that changes everything. This isn't just Candace talking. This time, someone from inside Portland Hospital, the exact place Meghan says she gave birth, has quietly shared details that were never supposed to leave that building. Details that tear apart the perfect story. And once you hear them, you'll start to understand why so many people are now asking the same question. What really happened the night Archie was born? Let's go back so you can understand everything much better. Remember Harry's book, Spare? It was supposed to be real and honest, a peek behind palace walls. But hidden inside all the feelings and family problems was one sentence that quietly blew everything up. Meghan had 2 epidurals, gave birth at Portland Hospital, and they were home at Frogmore Cottage within 2 hours. Hours. To most people, that sounds fast. To anyone who has ever had a baby, that sounds unbelievable. But to medical workers and hospital insiders, that timeline is not just suspicious, it's impossible. Let's break it down in a simple way. Portland Hospital to Frogmore Cottage is a 1-hour drive on a good day. So, if they were home 2 hours after birth, that means the birth happened. Meghan recovered from 2 epidurals. Yes, you heard me right. Not 1, but 2 epidurals. And after doctors checked her, nurses checked the baby. Discharge papers were filled out, bags were packed, security was organized. And then they drove an hour home, all inside 60 minutes. Not possible, not medically safe, not allowed under hospital rules. And the epidural detail makes the story even stranger. An epidural isn't something you get twice, like snacks at a buffet. It uses 1 tube placed in the spine. Even changing that tube during labor is extremely rare. So, when Harry says Meghan had 2 doctors raised eyebrows, 2 epidurals would mean 2 separate spine procedures, each needing setup, placement, testing, and watching. There is no world, not even a royal world, where a woman has 2 epidurals, a full delivery, afterbirth checks, and a 1-hour drive home, all inside 2 hours. This wasn't a timeline, this was a story written to sound exciting, but not to match reality. And the doubts grew even deeper when we looked at the location itself, because the version of Portland Hospital that Harry described does not exist. Before Meghan, Portland Hospital was already famous, not just for luxury, but for being one of the most private maternity hospitals in the country. But here's the truth you never see on magazine covers. Portland Hospital is not built like a normal emergency hospital. It has no emergency room, no giant trauma center, no busy ER like you see on TV. It is a specialist place. It handles complicated mother care, newborn emergencies, high-end rooms. But if something goes wrong beyond what they can handle, Portland's rule is clear. They transfer the patient quickly. Now compare that with Harry's description: a dark, calm room, candles glowing, a birthing ball, a spa-like tub, a relaxed setting with very little medical help. This isn't how Portland handles higher-risk births. This isn't how Portland handles epidurals. And this absolutely isn't how Portland handles any case where pain medicine is involved. The insider even confirmed no one is left alone with laughing gas. There is no secret elevator. There are no backdoor escape routes. There are number 2 OR releases, and no patient with 2 epidurals walks out of that building like it's a hotel lobby. So, if the room Meghan described was dimly lit like a wellness center, if candles flickered softly while labor went on, if Harry was breathing in laughing gas by accident or for fun, then the question becomes simple. Where exactly were they? Because the version of Portland Hospital described by Harry is not the Portland Hospital that exists in real life. If the timeline raised eyebrows, the medical details sent them higher. Because once doctors looked at Harry's version of events, something became painfully clear. The procedures he described don't match real medicine. Let's start with the epidural. Harry said Meghan had 2, not 1, but 2 separate epidurals. But epidurals don't work like that. When a woman gets one, a tiny tube, a catheter, is placed carefully into her spine. Once that tube is in, doctors simply adjust the medicine. Stronger, softer, higher amount, lower amount. It's all controlled from one line. No need to remove it. No need to repeat the procedure. For Meghan to have 2 epidurals, as Harry claims, a doctor would have needed to remove the first tube, start the entire spine procedure again, put in a new tube, test it, and watch her closely. All while she was in active labor. That almost never happens, especially in a private hospital where safety is the priority, not speed. A second epidural would only be done in an emergency, and emergencies need paperwork, higher-ups involved, and specialized staff. Yet, Harry describes it as casually as ordering 2 cups of tea. Then comes the laughing gas. Harry shares a funny moment about breathing in all the laughing gas that was meant for Meghan. But real hospitals don't leave laughing gas tanks sitting around like balloons at a birthday party. They keep them locked, labeled, and in the hands of nurses only. If a patient's partner emptied the tank, that wouldn't be funny. That would be a serious breaking of hospital safety. But in Harry's version, no nurse stopped him. No doctor corrected him. The scene plays like a comedy show, not like a high-risk birth in a strictly controlled private hospital. And this is where things become troubling, because when a story gets basic medical details wrong, it forces people to ask, were these mistakes innocent, or are they signs of a story that wasn't real to begin with? And just as the medical problems begin to pile up, the royal side of the story brings its own set of cracks. No family in the world uses rules the way the British royal family does. Everything is scheduled, everything is recorded. And when a royal woman goes into labor, the rule is simple and unbreakable. The Queen must be told immediately. That's not superstition. That's not tradition. That is official royal procedure. The same procedure followed for Prince William, Princess Kate, Princess Diana, and every royal birth before them. But according to sources who looked at this case, something unusual happened with Meghan. The Queen was not told. No call, no alert, no royal signal that a birth was beginning. If Meghan was truly in labor at Portland Hospital, and if she truly delivered Archie under royal protection, then someone would have broken centuries-old rules to keep the Queen out of the loop. And that makes no sense because a baby in line for the throne isn't just a family member. They are a national symbol. Their birth is recorded with precision. Timelines matter, witnesses matter, paperwork matters. But for Meghan's birth, everything was suddenly unclear. Dates got fuzzy, details conflicted, rules vanished. When something this big goes missing, it forces one important question. Why would royal staff ignore the rulebook unless the story they were told didn't match what was really happening? And while royal procedures were being ignored, Meghan's own explanations began shifting to not once, not twice, but 3 times. When the world asked why the press wasn't told about Archie's birth, Meghan didn't give one clear answer. Instead, she gave 3. First, she said she didn't want to block an emergency entrance at the hospital. But Portland Hospital doesn't have a public emergency entrance to block. Then, she said the press didn't deserve a photo because they were racist. A deeply emotional explanation, but very different from the first one. And then came the third version. She said that they did tell the press, and the press simply didn't show up. 3 reasons for one moment. 3 stories that contradict each other. 3 shifting explanations that create more confusion than clarity. And none of them match what actually happens when a royal baby is born. Because the press is always told through official channels, not by guessing or waiting around. This pattern of changing stories becomes important because it matches something investigators recognize immediately. When a single event has multiple explanations, it often means the real one hasn't been told yet. And this is where the story becomes shocking, with the biggest crack still waiting to be exposed. If Meghan's story had only been unusual, people might have shrugged it off. But once doctors heard she was in her late 30s when Archie was born, the entire story spun in a new direction. Because medically, a pregnancy over 35 is called a geriatric pregnancy. A harsh term, but a real one. And with that term comes a long list of realities: extra watching, more scans, closer supervision, reduced risks, detailed intervention plans. In other words, no doctor would encourage a SPO-style birthing room for a high-risk mother. But Harry described dim candles, a warm, cozy feeling, a birthing ball, a bathtub, a peaceful, dreamy setting. That is the picture of a low-risk, natural birth, not the atmosphere chosen for a woman with a late 30s pregnancy. 2 epidurals claimed preeclampsia, which I'm still coming to. Oh, trust me, there is so much to reveal. A rapidly moving labor. According to hospital sources familiar with Portland's high-risk procedures, the scene Harry described felt more like a planned look than a medical reality. High-risk births require bright lighting, monitors, quick access to medical tools, specialists on standby, strict watching. Candles and birthing balls are not standard for a birth team preparing to handle medical problems. So once again, the same question comes up. Why does the story sound like a wellness commercial instead of a medical event? And the contradictions only get sharper when we turn to the most serious claim of all, the claimed preeclampsia. Preeclampsia isn't a soft, gentle condition. It is dangerous, painful, and unpredictable. It can cause organ failure, seizures, and in severe cases, death. Sources familiar with real cases explain that the only way to keep mothers safe is immediate medical help. Constant watching, magnesium, sulfate drips, hourly monitoring, zero early release. In fact, one hospital insider who gave birth at Portland shared her own preeclampsia experience. Her blood pressure rose to a terrifying 231. Over 130, doctors rushed to treat her with magnesium sulfate, a treatment so strong it burns as it moves through the veins. She was watched continuously under bright lights, surrounded by nurses checking her vitals every hour. She did not go home the same day. She did not light candles. She did not walk out of the hospital as if she'd finished a spa appointment. And here's why that comparison matters. If Meghan actually had preeclampsia, everything about her afterbirth timeline becomes impossible, because just weeks after Archie's birth, Meghan was traveling internationally, flying long hours, attending events, vacationing, walking red carpets, flying again, and showing no visible signs of someone recovering from one of the most dangerous pregnancy problems. Meanwhile, preeclampsia recovery requires rest, controlled environments. Doctors insist that high blood pressure after delivery can spike without warning, which is why new mothers are kept under strict supervision. Yet Meghan's real-life schedule looked like the exact opposite. And once you add this contradiction to the timeline, the epidurals, the hospital problems, and the rule gaps, the story begins to fall apart under its own weight. And the smaller cracks, the ones people rarely talk about, make it shatter even faster. Every big story has small details that seem harmless until you look closely. And in Meghan's case, these little details are more revealing than the big ones. Let's start with the Nando chicken incident. Harry claimed he slipped out at 2 o'clock in the morning to pick up Nando for the hospital room. But according to staff familiar with Portland services, Portland has 24-hour private chefs. Meals can be ordered at any hour, and Nando closes around 11 p.m. So not only was Nando closed, but Portland's private dining service would have provided anything Meghan wanted without Harry leaving the building. Then there's the secret elevator. Harry described a hidden path almost like a royal escape tunnel, but hospital insiders and Portland staff, when asked directly, confirmed there is no secret elevator, no hidden exits, no special royal path. Even royal ones are wheeled through normal hallways. Then comes a deeper break, the issue of who actually delivered Archie. For months, media outlets reported it was Dr. Penelope Law, but later, another physician denied being involved. Some papers had to correct their reports after failing to verify the information. Confusion around the doctor of a royal birth is not a small error. It shows something was held back, changed, or misunderstood from the start. And now we reach the final part of this expose, the part where everything comes together. Every story Meghan and Harry have shared about Archie's birth was wrapped in warmth, candles glowing, dim lights, soft music, and a magical rush out of the hospital to their peaceful home. It sounded like a fairy tale, a planned moment, a perfect memory to protect. But fairy tales only work when no one looks behind the curtain. Because once you pull it back, the glow fades, the questions appear, and the truth begins to breathe on its own. The insider testimony, the impossible 2-hour timeline, the 2 epidurals, the laughing gas, the missing royal rules. The luxury hospital that doesn't match the story, the higher-risk pregnancy wrapped in a low-risk fantasy, the preeclampsia, didn't follow medical rules. The trips, the flights, the perfect public appearances, the quiet contradictions, secret elevators, closed restaurants, unverified doctors, and conflicting witnesses. All these pieces form a pattern too sharp to ignore. This isn't about gossip. This isn't about opinions. This is about a story that was told one way and lived another. And as more details surface, one truth becomes impossible to avoid. Something in Meghan's birth story does not line up. Not medically, not logically, not by procedure, not historically. And when the cracks in a fairy tale grow this wide, the whole story begins to shake because the truth doesn't disappear. It waits, it pushes forward, and sooner or later, it demands to be seen, no matter how carefully someone tries to hide it. So, as this mystery keeps unfolding, and as insiders continue to speak quietly from the shadows, one question now echoes louder than ever. If this part of Meghan's story isn't real, what else was never meant to be discovered? The fairy tale is fading, and the truth is stepping into the light.